From a silent pistol that barely whispered to a limpet mine capable of sinking a warship, this is every weapon British commandos carried in World War II. Britain activated its commando program in June 1940, just weeks after the catastrophe at Dunkirk. These elite raiders operated in small, fast units, rarely exceeding 200 men per operation, striking occupied Europe, North Africa, and the Far East with devastating precision. They were never designed to hold ground. They were built to destroy, vanish, and repeat. From Norwegian fjords to the beaches of Dieppe, British commandos conducted over 57 recorded raids in under 5 years. Their effectiveness depended entirely on the weapons they carried, a uniquely diverse arsenal blending standard British infantry arms with specialized tools no conventional soldier ever touched. Here is every weapon British commandos carried, from their personal sidearms to their most covert instruments of war. Sidearms were the commandos' last resort when primary weapons failed or ran empty. These pistols and revolvers were carried by officers, NCOs, and specialist troops throughout every theater of the war. Webley Mk6 revolver. The Webley Mk6, introduced in 1915 and still widely issued during World War II, was a .455 caliber British service revolver with a distinctive top-break loading mechanism. That mechanism allowed a trained soldier to reload 6 chambers in under 5 seconds, a critical advantage in close-quarters fighting. Commandos carried it during the 1941 assault on the Lofoten Islands off Norway's coast. Its heavy .4555 round was so powerful that soldiers nicknamed it the hand cannon, and few enemies it struck required a second shot. Enfield No. 2. MKI revolver. The Enfield No. 2. 2 MK5, adopted by British forces in 1932, chambered the lighter .38 12-0 cartridge as a more manageable service weapon than the Webley. Weighing just 1.7 pounds unloaded, it was compact enough for officers moving fast under fire. Commandos used it extensively during the 1942 Dieppe raid and throughout the North African campaigns. Its double-action-only trigger, the hammer spur, was deliberately removed, made it safer for rapid close-quarters use where accidental cocking could prove fatal. Browning Hi-Power. The Browning Hi-Power, adopted by Britain in 1940, was a 9mm semi-automatic pistol carrying 13 rounds in a single staggered magazine. That capacity nearly doubled what any contemporary revolver could offer at one loading. Special operations executive agents and commanders working alongside Allied units favored it for its reliability across extreme climates. Both Allied and Axis forces used variants of the Hi-Power, meaning ammunition captured from dead enemies could theoretically keep it fed behind enemy lines. Standard infantry rifles formed the foundation of every commando's loadout. These weapons provided the range, accuracy, and rugged durability required in amphibious landings and mountain terrain alike. Lee-Enfield No. 4 MKBs landings and mountain terrain alike. Lee-Enfield No. 4 Form LKI, introduced in 1941, was the standard British service rifle chambered in .303 British accurate to 550 meters in trained hands. Its 10-round detachable magazine and famously smooth bolt action allowed a skilled rifleman to fire 20 aimed rounds per minute, a rate unmatched by any contemporary bolt-action design. Commandos carried it on virtually every major operation, including the audacious Saint-Nazaire raid of March 1920. Over 4 million were produced by the war's end, one of the highest production bolt-action rifles in the history of warfare. Lee-Enfield No. 4 MKI-T sniper variant. The No. 4 MKI-T, fielded from 1942 onward, was a hand-selected Lee-Enfield fitted with a 1942 telescopic sight for precision fire out to 1,000 yards. Approximately 26,000 were converted from standard production rifles, each tested individually for accuracy before a scope was mounted. Commando snipers deployed them during the Italian campaign and on long-range reconnaissance operations across the Aegean. The scope mount was engineered to survive the shock of amphibious landings. Precision instruments rarely tolerated abuse, but this one had to. Lisle carbine. The Lisle carbine, developed in 1942 by engineer William Lisle, was one of the quietest military firearms ever produced, chambered in .45 ACP, with a fully integral suppressor occupying most of its barrel length. Only 129 were manufactured for wartime service, making it among the rarest weapons in the commando arsenal. It saw action with No. 3 Commando in Italy and with SAA attitudes operating in the Far East. Soldiers who carried it reported that the cycling of the bolt was louder than the shot itself, a statement that was not an exaggeration. Submachine guns defined the visual identity of the British Commando. Fast, lightweight, and lethal inside 100 meters, they perfectly suited the short, violent engagements these raiders specialized in. Sten Mk2. The Sten Mk, introduced in 1941, was a 9mm submachine gun manufactured at a wartime unit cost of just 10 shillings, roughly equivalent to 10 shillings 10 zd, roughly equivalent to $10 at the time. It fired 550 rounds per minute from a distinctive 32-round side-mounted magazine that doubled as a firing grip in the field. Commandos carried it across every theater, from Channel Islands to Burma. Its crude stamped metal construction earned the nickname Plumber's Nightmare, but its blowback mechanism could be stripped and reassembled in complete darkness, a nightly necessity for raiders operating without light. Thompson M1928-1. The Thompson M1920A1, chambered in hard-hitting .45 ACP, arrived through American Lend-Lease beginning in 1941 and quickly became one of the most prized weapons in commando units. Firing at 600 rounds per minute, it accepted both a 20-round box magazine and a 50-round drum magazine originally made famous by American gangsters. British Commandos carried it during the St. Nazaire raid of March 1942, the most ambitious commando operation of the entire war. Its 10-pound loaded weight was its only serious drawback. Soldiers who trained with it learned to love it anyway. Lanchester MKY. The Lanchester MKY, adopted in 1941, was a direct licensed copy of the German MP-28 submachine gun, chambered in 9mm and built to Royal Navy standards with a brass magazine housing and solid walnut stock. Its rate of fire matched the Thompson at 600 rounds per minute, but its heavier construction made it significantly more durable under maritime conditions. Royal Marine Commandos were its primary users, cementing it as a weapon associated almost exclusively with elite amphibious forces. Fewer than 100,000 were produced, compared to over 4 million Stens, making each unit a genuinely scarce piece of kit. No category of weapon defined commando raids more completely than grenades and explosive devices. These were the instruments that allowed small teams of men to destroy entire industrial installations and disappear before dawn. No. 36 mils bomb. The number 36 mils bomb, the standard British fragmentation grenade refined from a World War I design, weighed 1.26 pounds and produced a kill radius of approximately 10 meters upon detonation. Its cast-iron segmented body shattered into hundreds of jagged fragments, each capable of wounding or killing at extended range. Commandos used it during the Vargso raid of December 1941, clearing German defensive positions in the Norwegian town of South Vargso building, by building German defensive positions in the Norwegian town of South Vartuteldalsko. A trained soldier could hurl it accurately up to 30 meters, just enough distance to find cover before the 4-second fuse expired. No. 82 Gammon Bomb. The number 82 Gammon Bomb. The number 82 Gammon Bomb, introduced in 1942, was a fabric and elastic grenade personally designed by Captain R.S. Gammon of the Parachute Regiment, and quickly adopted across commando units for its versatility. The elastic bag could be packed with up to 2 pounds of plastic explosive, enough to disable a vehicle, destroy a weapon emplacement, or blow a fortified door off its frame. Commandos employed it during amphibious operations throughout the Mediterranean theater. Its improvised, sock-like appearance concealed an explosive yield that could reduce a hardened position to rubble. No. 74 Estradad. The sticky bomb, the number. 74 Strays grenade, universally known as the sticky bomb, ended service in 1940 during Britain's most desperate wartime period. A glass sphere containing 560 grams of nitroglycerin was coated in an adhesive compound and detonated on a 5-second delay upon contact with metal. Commandos used it against light armored vehicles and armored cars during coastal raids where heavier anti-tank weapons could not be carried. Operating 1 required stripping its outer cover, pressing the device firmly against the target, and moving away at speed, a sequence that demanded calm nerves and precise timing in equal measure. Limpet mine. The limpet mine, developed by the Special Operations Executive in 1940, was a magnetic explosive charge designed to be placed against the underwater hull of enemy shipping. Carrying 1.45 kilograms of explosive, a single mine could breach a ship's hull below the waterline and cause catastrophic, irreversible flooding. Commando swimmers from the Special Boat Section employed them during Operation Frankton in December 1942, paddling in canoes deep into occupied Bordeaux to place charges on 6 German merchant vessels. The operation caused damage and sinkings that denied the Reich hundreds of tons of vital cargo and became one of the war's most celebrated covert actions. Commandos rarely carried heavy crew-served weapons. When they encountered armor, tanks, armored cars, or fortified gun positions, they needed compact, individual portable solutions capable of doing serious damage. Boys anti-tank rifle. The Boys anti-tank rifle, introduced in 1937, fired a .5 caliber armor-piercing round capable of penetrating 21 millimeters of hardened steel at 100 meters range. Weighing 16 kilograms fully loaded, its recoil was severe enough to fracture collarbones in improperly positioned shooters, leading soldiers to call it the elephant gun. Commandos used it during early North African operations against Italian light armor, and during 1941 raids targeting Rommel's supply infrastructure. By mid-war, rapidly improving Axis armor outpaced its penetration capability entirely, and it was phased out in favor of newer systems: PIAT, projector, infantry, anti-tank. The PIAT, introduced in 1943, was a spring-powered spigot mortar that launched a 2.5-pound hollow charge bomb capable of penetrating 100 millimeters of armor at 100 meters. Unlike a recoilless rifle, it produced virtually no backblast, allowing commandos to fire it from enclosed rooms, narrow alleys, or positions that would have made conventional rocket launchers suicidal. Units deployed it throughout the Italian campaign of 1943 to 1944 and during Adriatic Island operations. Cocking the weapon required compressing its main spring with a 200-pound pull, a physical test that made every shot a minor feat of strength. 2-inch mortar. The 2-inch mortar, adopted in 1938, was a lightweight man-portable tube firing high-explosive, smoke, or illumination rounds to a maximum effective range of 500 meters. Weighing just 4.8 kilograms complete with base plate, it was one of the lightest indirect fire systems in any Allied force. Commando sections used it to suppress German positions during beach landings and to signal extraction points with illumination rounds on the darkness. One soldier could carry the tube, baseplate, and 6 ready rounds simultaneously, giving a small team mortar capability without a dedicated crew. Silence was often as operationally valuable as firepower for commandos working behind enemy lines. These weapons were purpose-engineered for elimination that left no report, no alarm, and no warning. Fairbairn-Sykes fighting knife. The Fairbairn-Sykes fighting knife, designed in 1941 by former Shanghai municipal police officers William Fairbairn and Eric Sykes, became the single most iconic symbol of British commando identity throughout the war. Its double-edged 7.5-inch stiletto blade was specifically optimized for thrusting into vulnerable gaps in enemy equipment, the space between a steel helmet and a uniform collar, between ribs, across the carotid. Every British commando received one upon completing the grueling selection course at Achnacarry Castle in Scotland. Over 250,000 were produced during the war, and the knife silhouette remains on the badge of the British Special Forces Support Group today. Welrod suppressed pistol. The Welrod, developed by the SOE's Station 9 around 1942, was a bolt-action single-shot pistol. chambered in this ACP or 9mm, with a fully integral suppressor forming the majority of the weapon's body. Firing it produced approximately 70 decibels of sound, roughly equivalent to a single hand clap, making it nearly inaudible beyond a few meters in open air. SOE agents and commando reconnaissance teams used it for the silent elimination of sentries in occupied France and the Low Countries. Fewer than 2,800 were ever manufactured, but the principles of its design influenced suppressed weapon development for decades after the war's end. Knuckle dusters and sap gloves commandos trained extensively in close-quarters silent combat, and weighted striking tools formed a recognized part of their standard kit. Brass knuckle dusters, issued from 1940 onward, allowed a soldier to deliver a lethal blow without drawing a blade or risking the sound of a firearm. Sap gloves, leather fighting gloves with powdered lead sewn into the knuckle panels, served an identical purpose with fewer complications in occupied civilian areas. Instructors at Hatchna-Carry drilled men in their use for weeks before any overseas deployment. These were not weapons of last resort. In specific operational contexts, they were the primary solution. Commandos were destroyers by institutional doctrine. Their demolition tools transformed bridges, rail lines, fuel depots, and dry docks from strategic assets into rubble, often with explosives small enough to fit in a rucksack. Nobel's 880 plastic explosive. Nobel's 880, the standard British military plastic explosive throughout World War II, was a beige, clay-like compound that could be shaped and pressed against any target by hand, without specialized tools or training. It was completely stable without a detonator. It would not explode if struck, burned, or dropped from height. Commando demolition teams used it to destroy the massive pumping machinery during the Saint-Fant Nazaire raid of March 1942, disabling the largest operational dry dock in the world and permanently denying it to the German battleship Tirpitz. A single fist-sized block carried enough chemical energy to collapse a load-bearing steel beam. Time pencil detonators. Time pencil detonators. Time pencil detonators, standard issue to British Special Operations Forces from 1940 onward, were chemical delay fuses housed in thin brass tubes roughly diameter of a standard pencil. Crushing one end broke an internal glass vial of copper chloride acid, which slowly dissolved to steel wire. When the wire snapped, it released a spring-loaded firing pin that initiated the charge. Available in delay intervals from 10 minutes to 24 hours, each pencil was color-coded to indicate its timing. Commandos used them to place charges on railway lines and fuel depots across occupied Europe, setting destruction in motion before slipping away entirely unseen. British Commandos carried one of the most deliberately diverse and purpose-engineered personal arsenals assembled by any fighting force in World War II, from the 2-pound Sten to the precision-built Welrod, from the Fairbairn-Sykes blade to the limpet mine. Each weapon fulfilled a specific function inside the violent, fast, and unforgiving framework of raid warfare. This breakdown covered 20 individual weapons across 8 categories: sidearms, rifles, submachine guns, grenades, anti-tank systems, silent weapons, and demolition equipment. The Commandos demonstrated that small units, equipped with the right tools and forged through extreme training, could achieve strategic consequences far beyond their numbers. Their arsenal shaped every special operations doctrine that followed, and every weapon on this list left a mark that military history has never fully erased.